Hey, what's good, people? This is the Option Podcast. This is episode 98. That man over there, that's the professor. And the episode starts right now. Hey, what's good, people? This is episode 98. This is the Option Podcast. And you asked, and you shall receive. Because for me, I've got to give the people what they want. Todd Rogers, what's up, man?
Not much. How you doing?
I'm good, man. Look, before we got in the podcast, I talked a little. I mentioned Simone Biles' name, right? Because it's on the news. It's on First Take. It's on this and that. And you stopped me at any point. I think she withdrew because of injury, but I also think there's like a mental health thing there. And
Right.
I believe, based on the information I got, because I've been flying around. It's my birthday. I think it has something to do with the skewing of the scoring system because of the moves she's doing. Like, they don't want to score differently because they don't want other people to do the same moves because they might get hurt or killed. Is there anything, anything you heard in the news or read about that?
Not the killed part. I don't know about that one. I mean, I have it. I just saw that she had withdrawn. I thought it originally was for injury, and then I read that it was potentially injury, like ankle. I think if I read, and then there was a mental health component as well, where she was feeling stressed from just the expectations and pressures of essentially being who she is, as well as from, I don't know if it's pressure from teammates, but her feeling as though there's pressure from teammates and the country, et cetera. So that's kind of what I am aware of. I didn't dig super, super deep into it. Those are just is there something else I missed, or are you privy to something else?
I think I might be skirting around the elephant in the room. I'm skirting around mental health and like how pressure is kind of like a real thing. And I think I was trying to dance into that, but let's just jump straight into that. I think my question is, why don't people understand that even elite athletes are under this constant duress, and that I mean, they think that pressure is a normal thing, or this heightened level of pressure is a normal thing. And to me, someone who's played a sport, you played at the highest level and received the highest award, is it supposed to feel normal?
Uh, no, I think I mean, each individual is going to be different on that front.
Hmm.
The pressure, in my opinion, is put on yourself by yourself. There is no one else out there that is putting pressure on you, except, I mean, unless of course if parents are putting pressure on you or something like that. But the pressure is really you yourself, with, and in like Simone's case or my own case or any Olympian's case, you have extraordinarily high expectations of yourself. And so there's a lot of pressure that you put on yourself to perform, whether or not that's for your own personal gratification or for your teams, to help your team out or to help the U.S. Olympic team or the United States itself or any other country for that matter. But it's definitely something that is out there. It's real, and how people handle it is so different across genres, across generations, and more so than ever, I think, in the last probably 10 years, we've discovered a lot more and how that's affecting us in terms of just the stresses, the sciences behind, how the chemistry of the body can literally change based on when you put stress on yourself or pressure on yourself. It's pretty crazy stuff. I mean, I haven't delved too much in the weeds in it. For me personally, I felt I always kind of just enjoyed it. To be honest with you, I kind of really, I liked being served at 2019. Like, I wanted to be served, and I didn't always win. I failed a lot, but for me, I kind of enjoyed that moment. It was a fun thing, and it was kind of, to me, the ability to test myself against whoever that was serving me at 2019.
I think that's a very good answer in a sense that we are intrigued by the athletes who invite that pressure, right? 2019, please serve me the ball. Oh my God, thank you. There's almost this relief because now you get to dictate and control your own outcome, all right? I mean, which makes doubles, beach doubles, such an intriguing thing, right? Certainly single sports like tennis and, I mean, no one to serve but you, golf, but, you know, in like in a sixes game, I mean, it's like, wow, I just got 33 kills. And we lost 3-0.
Right.
But I guess as a coach, ladies and gentlemen, he's a coach at Cal Poly. He coaches smart kids, and they need a real professor as a coach and best man for the job. So, as a coach, how do you sense if a player is under pressure? Are your players, are you just open in preseason and more candid and saying, hey, look, talk to me all the time, as much as you can about situations of when it feels too heightened or this or that? So how do you deal with players or coach players? Because you've been, and I'd like to finish my long ass question, I guess. Last season, right? You played Hawaii, WCC's West Coast, right? Two years ago. We're not counting COVID. COVID, the whole world went to shit, right?
Right.
You played Hawaii. Actually, I call that. I call that
That's
championship.
right.
It was me, Dodd, and Hav. And I don't know about this year, but 2 years ago it came down to 21-19 pair 5. How do you or did you prepare your team for these tight game situations?
I think, one, you hope that the season in and of itself prepares your team, i.e., you played good competition. You played the top teams in the country, of which Hawaii has perennially been one of those and was certainly one of those in 2019. And
yeah, you both
been in
went.
those situations.
Mm-hmm.
What's that?
You both went to the tournament. That's right.
Yeah, we both did. So you that's kind of step one, in my opinion, is putting yourself in those positions over and over and over again. And then hopefully you learn how to succeed, how to handle yourself in those positions. And you're in that scenario that you just described when we were at Zuma and you were broadcasting that one, our gals ended up ultimately succeeding and beating Hawaii twice. And in the second one, it was literally came down to the 5s pair. And it so often does in college. It always seems to come down to the 5s pair when it's two tightly matched teams. And fortunately, we were able to, Braden Grunwald and Vanessa Roscoe were able to pull that one out over Hawaii's 5s team. As far as like me preparing them outside of like a court itself and putting them in those positions, I mean, we do a fair amount of pressure stuff within practices themselves, whether that's a serving, a passing, a setting, attacking, and putting stuff on it. Or I found both ways work. One, putting either a punishment or some form of trying to make it a pressure cooker where they're going to have more sprints. Or I've also found that having them be able to take sprints off also allows them to feel that pressure, but in a manner where you feel success, and if you miss it, you have 10 sprints, let's say, out of the whole team.
Right.
And you put 3 gals in there and say, okay, if you serve these spots, then you get to take a sprint off. If not, we still all have 10. So there's no, yes, there's pressure there, but it's not, okay, if you miss this, we're adding 3 sprints.
Right.
So I do a little bit of both of that. And then as far as off court, yeah, lots of talking about it. Some of them talk to our sports psychologists. Not just me. I'm not a sports psychologist. I've been through the rigors and the pressures, so I can certainly feel for them and talk with them and work with them through those kinds of things to the best of my ability, but I'm not a qualified sports psychologist by any means. So we use all of those pieces, and without question, some of them feel more pressure than others. And some of them have more of I don't care, I'm just going to go out and play kind of and have fun, and they don't really think about it or worry about it. And others do have a lot more stress and are talking to me or the sports psychologist a lot more frequently. And that's just the individual personalities of being an athlete and being a person.
Yeah, I mean, Coach, for me, I was with Endless Summer for a little bit. I was, of course, John's Dovo at LMU, 2018 or whatever. So I got a chance to see you guys playing all of the guys. And everyone played Pepperdine more times than many. And I got a quote from Chael Sonnen. He's an MMA guy. He's mixed martial artist. And really the pressure comes from just them mixing the results with the expectations, right? If you're in there to play to win, you're probably not going to win. But if you play what you're trained to do, and you have these different goals, and the expectation is you win. It's very much like theater, which I won't get into. And he said they tell you losing is not an option. And he says, I think that's ridiculous. Losing is an option. Losing is the most readily available option all the time. And it is incumbent upon us coaches to say, hey, next play, or we can let negative talk creep up in their head like that was terrible, whatever. So the most important thing, and I want you to chime in after I say this, I told some of my girls, and I told 3 different girls the same speech. I said the 2 most important things you need to remember is 1, the other team's feeling it, right? And 2, it's natural. This is not an abnormal feeling. Don't you can't be on that court acting like everybody else is treating this like normal, and you're the only one that's feeling it. And I think there is almost a sense of relief that if you remind these players that every time they're in that situation, it just feels like a normal day where they come to you, they wind up someone like you. It's like, please serve me. I want this ball. Thoughts?
I do agree with you that if you're outcome oriented, it's going to be really, really difficult. And I think that's what MMA I was basically saying. Like, if all you're focused on is the end result, then you're probably going to be putting yourself, every time you do something poorly, you're putting yourself in a position where you're thinking about losing and failing. I strongly encourage them to put themselves out there where they will fail. I really believe that you learn much more from failing than you ever will from winning. Just in my own personal experiences and what I've seen from people, you dissect when you lose, because you want to know why you lost. When you win, you usually don't dissect why you won to the level that you would when you failed or you lost. So yes, if you're focused on the outcome, you're going to struggle. You need to be, and we also always say that, be in the moment, play for that next touch, that next point, whatever that is. You're always playing within that moment in time. And if you do that and you've been trained correctly, then the outcome more often than not, in my opinion, and I think most people's opinion, is going to be a good outcome. So as far as accepting the pressure and stuff like that, yeah, it is different. The reality is if you've got 1,000 people watching you, they're watching you. They don't feel any pressure. They're not playing. They're just watching you for enjoyment, to see in some ways how you do, is whether that's volleyball or basketball. And also, I think there's a lot of people that just watch to see how people perform in those situations. That's why I think a lot of people love watching the Michael Jordans, the Kobe Bryants, the LeBron James, the Steph Currys of the world, because they want to see them make that crazy shot. And those guys are all willing to take that shot. And that means there's a lot of misses involved as well. But whatever their chemistry, the way their thinking is they want to be that person to take that shot. It's kind of like that 2019 serve. And not everyone's wired that way.
The pair 5, man.
What's that?
It was pair 5, and I think it was like a block, then a serve. Yep.
So you try and train them as best you can to be prepared for that. But again, there are some that are not, and maybe never will be. But as a coach, your job is to try and do your best to get them to that place where they can accept that there is a possibility of failure and a possibility of winning. And both of them are outcomes potentially, but focus on what's happening in the now. And if you do that, then in my opinion, you're kind of a winner no matter what, because you're getting better. Mm-hmm. And that's the ultimate goal. And you may end up losing and failing, but chances are, if you were in that moment all the time, the other team was simply better and they played better at that moment in time. So, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. That's why we play sports. It's because it's fun and we want to compare ourselves to others and have the little battles in a setting that's not going to kill us, essentially.
Yeah. Well, I also tell a lot of my players, get used to 2-point games. If you want to be a champion, Championships, Todd, are not, in my opinion, are not decided by blowouts. They're decided in 2-point games. Look at your Big West Championship. That was decided by 2 points by pair five. And in that same, a day earlier, look at the West Coast Conference. LMU had to climb out of hell and beat Pepperdine not once but twice, but came down to the pair 2 or 4 with Emma Dowd. 16-14 set 3. Look at the Pac Championship. USC and UCLA came down the Sponsel at that 2019 pair 2, which was also decided by 2 points. So pretty much the entire West, all 3 conferences were set up that way. I had a high school team that had a 38-1 record, and I counted the number of sets that we won by 2. There were 42 sets. We won by 2, and I'm like, so very, 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 very interesting subject. Would you consider, since we delved on a little bit of 2019, and your observation, I guess I'll just ask plainly, would you consider that the year of the upstart? The year this became an NCAA sport, right? And then some of these girls, you remember when they were like splitting time indoor and outdoor, and then some girls are making lead decision to just go to the beach, and then like a couple of years it seemed to spill. And the reason why I'm asking that, it was, the media loved it. AVP Hermosa, you had girls that were going to college or just graduating college, right? You had Chrissy Jones and Muno in the semifinals. You had Maple and Kraft in the quarterfinals. You had the Norris twins who were on their way to USC making the main draw. And not only did it make the current players re-examine their game, but how much did you think NCAA volleyball being women's volleyball being an NCAA sport had to do with that?
I think it had a huge impact, and you're seeing it every single year now. Yes, it started roughly 12 years ago, and of course, you're not going to get an immediate impact right then and there. But I do think from about 16, 17, 18, it started, and then 19 kind of exploded on the scene with Chrissy and Sana getting a 3rd place in that event, with Maple and Kraft getting a 5th, and now it just seems almost like it's commonplace to see high school gals, in the qualifier for sure, and lots of them in the qualifier, and then even, 1 or 2 sometimes making it into the main draw. They're not gonna. I don't see them pulling a Maple and Kraft consistently year in and year out. I think that's kind of that's definitely an outlier. That's not the norm. But I do think you're just going to see more and more gals that are in the qualifier, filling up the qualifier draw, and deservedly so too. They're really good, talented athletes, and that's because they've been playing for a long time and they've been getting coached by coaches since they were 10, 12 years old. And a lot of it, I kind of chuckle because even the gals that are, let's say, seniors in my program, for the most part, the freshmen coming in have probably been coached just as long as they have. So they're really, the only thing they have is just 5 years of experience in the world and just being older than the gals coming in. But as far as experience, being coached, years playing on the beach, a lot of them are equal. It's just that one started at 10 and the other one started at 14.
I also think that they have already prepared themselves to accept or come to accept that when they go to college, they have to know that this is going to be your complete college experience. You're going to be doing this. You're going to go to school, and you're going to get good grades, and 10 and a half months out of the 12 months, this is going to be your college experience. I always tell my friends, my wife went to Harvard, tennis and volleyball, but she knew year one. To her credit, because we're volleyball players. We're stupid. We don't know any better. We're like, I want this to be my 13-month experience out of a possible 12. But when you know right away, it saves you a whole lot of, like you said, mental stress and all that stuff that a lot of these elite athletes have to put up with. And I think you might agree with me where a lot of these girls coming in have already practiced that future of knowing that I'm already doing this 10 months out of the year anyway. So, they know that's more than the same. So go ahead.
I think they're accustomed to it already. And I think a lot of them too are just kind of, I think all athletes actually, it's just the way that a sports is going, whether good or bad. I personally think for me, I would have struggled with that. I needed breaks. I needed other sports, not the same sport for 10 months of the year.
Yeah.
But a lot of these gals are, taking a month off or 2 months off, max, and then just training all the time. So they are already prepared kind of for the college rigors, not fully, because they're usually not practicing every single day and lifting weights and doing plyos and sprints and all the other things we do in college, plus the rigors of just being an athlete in college in and of itself, or a student athlete in college. But they're more well prepared overall, just having been in a system within a club where a coach is, outlining whatever the practice plan is, and then moving forward. And this month we're going to be working on our defense and blocking and transition. And the next month, just like you would in college, where there's focuses rather than just go to the beach and play, which is kind of how we grew up, which is, oh, let's go to the beach, let's just play. And it's your bros and you play all day and it's fun. Both of them train you, but I would argue that having a coach there correcting you and training you in those manners is definitely going to increase the learning curve by an exponential amount than just going and playing. Either way you learn, you get better. But the one is a slow process, trial and error. The other one is, this is how you do it correctly. And if you do it correctly this way, you're going to be on to the next level and then on to the next level, etc.
I want to stay on this road, but allow me to drive us to the curb of the cliff. I promise I won't take us both off. Don't coaches need that time off too, though? Don't you?
Agree. Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. I mean, So you need a vacation. I think, from the athlete's perspective, you're talking from a mental and a physical aspect. Whereas a coach probably is not doing too much of the physical. Maybe the shoulder needs some time off, kind of a thing, but you're not jumping, you're not doing the sprints, all that kind of stuff that all these athletes are. So from an athlete perspective, they need it from both, because they're grinding physically. They may be physically exhausted and need a month break for just the body to repair.
Yeah. And your term paper is due tomorrow, right? Correct. And your term paper, which is like 33% of your grade, that's due tomorrow. Right. Yeah. Well, Todd, I interviewed a few years ago, 100 years ago for Santa Cruz, like the indoor team, and someone asked me a question: what's your strongest attribute as a coach? I told them I personalize my work. The job doesn't stop when I leave the office. I have a command center. I live in a video room like a hermit. And I'm always, in my mind, when I'm about to go to sleep, I always think there's someone out there working hard at me, and I get back up and I go back to work. It's ridiculous. And I don't want anyone to do the same thing I do. It's not for everybody. They asked me what my biggest weakness is. I personalize my work. Right, huh? Dude, it hurts too freaking much. It hurts too much because right, they pay us to coach, but they don't pay us to care. You know what I'm saying? You see these girls and they put these elite turning into elite athletes and growing into these young adults and future leaders of the world, and you find yourself not just coaching, but you want the best for them. And sometimes when they face that disappointment, and I think a lot of fans feel this way, that fans that follow you, that take a journey with you, they lose. They feel like they lose too. They hurt with you, man. How many fans have you seen cry when, like, Murray lost to Federer in like Wimbledon, like before the Olympics 2012, right? And it's like, why are you crying over an athlete, dude? Don't you have a freaking pulse? So that's my strength and my weakness. And why am I talking about myself? Because I'm presenting the question to you: what's your greatest strength and your greatest weakness as a coach? And I'm trying not to make this sound like an interview, because if you listen to the podcast, it's a conversation. It's not, right? You're not here, but I don't have the power of subpoena, right? This isn't an inquisition. I'm not pulling teeth. So Rogers, Coach Todd, your greatest strength and your greatest weakness?
I'd say my greatest strength is twofold. One, drawing on my experiences, which not very many people will be able to draw on the wealth of experiences that I have had in the sport. But really, from an interpersonal perspective, I think I do a really good job of weighing the team and the individual athletes to a really better than I've seen most other coaches. I think most coaches just lean straight to the team. It's all about the team. And you as an individual athlete need to immerse yourself entirely within the team. And whereas I think I do a really good job of still allowing the autonomy of the individual to be within the team, and, not completely lose themselves when coming into the team. And for some people, that's really easy. That's like literally 95% of themselves can be just boom, and they only have to change kind of 5% to really fit the team. For others, that's a lot less. They have to divest a lot more of themselves, understanding that, hey, the team is still the ultimate goal. The team is moving towards whatever we're trying, whatever our goals are. So I feel like I do a pretty good job of talking a lot of them through that, and helping them figure that out. Because I do feel in a lot of team sports, not just beach volleyball, but a lot of team sports, the individual is lost. And I still think there's a lot of power to be had for them to still be themselves within that team setting, and have that accepted by the team as well. So that, I'd say, is probably I feel is one of my stronger points as a coach. Yeah. My weaker points as a coach. I think I have quite a few. I don't know if I could pick a top one.
But there's one that came to your mind right now. Tell me what it is.
Just not a rah-rah guy. And a lot of coaches are rah-rah guys and get all fired up and stuff. It's just not who I am. I watch a lot of other coaches that are celebrating and doing all this other stuff, and it's just not me. I've had athletes come to me and say, hey, can you be more demonstrative, or and I've tried. Actually, I do try and be more so that way, but it's not me, and I struggle with that. I understand that sometimes it has to be laid out there, and that is uncomfortable for me. That's not in my wheelhouse. And so when I do that, it is literally stepping outside of my comfort zone. And really, it's not necessarily a requirement, but it certainly does help for the team, and certainly some individuals that when I do that, they get all fired up and whatnot. But it's just not something I'm even remotely comfortable with. It's what it is.
When John is cheering more than you got a problem. John Mayer, he's like the biggest, and he's the biggest introvert ever. And no, listen, Todd, if they just see this, look, and then you're back, actually you could probably stop there. That's when on that respect, that's when you got to feel like your job is done. They got to come in knowing that, and come on, they got assistant coaches for that stuff, right? Come on, you got you got Dovos, you got directors of operations, who
gotta hire them.
Most of them, those guys are coaches, but don't get to coach the players. They'll be your, come on, that's your de facto cheerleader right there if you ever saw one. So, staying with coaching a little bit, because I wanted to talk a little bit about her. Chrissy, oh my God, Shun, I butchered this name all weekend. She wants to go under her new last name. And Chrissy, if you're out there, I apologize. I'm just going to call you Chrissy right now. She was at AVP Atlantic City, and we got a notice. I was commentating solo act on court 2. I think Cameron Irwin and Boron, they were, there's a 2-person team, but they were like, are you okay going solo? I'm like, hell, I can color. You know me, I could go play by play. There's only like 5 guys that can do both, but they come up to me and they're like, from now on, she's going to be known as this. And like, this is the spelling of her name. And I'm just like practicing it, this and that. So her name notwithstanding, we'll go by her first name. She was on the podcast. An amazing human being. All right. Not just an amazing player, an amazing human being. Drawing the picture for everyone listening to the podcast, Chrissy came into Hermosa Beach as the 47th seed in Hermosa Beach, the Open. She makes it to the draw, not only makes the draw, but makes it all the way to the semifinals. So now you think about it, the 47th seed is really like the 63rd seed, right? If you add like the main draw guys too.
Yeah.
Just an incredible feat that if people knew her more, that she'd probably have a billboard behind Good Stuff, or somewhere in front of Sharky's. So she was on the podcast. I asked her what you mean to her as a coach and as a mentor, and she said some awfully nice things about her. So I pose the question to you. You coach a lot of people, but I want you to concentrate and refocus on this one person. Todd, what does Chrissy Jones mean to you?
She's a culture changer. She was an amazing key cog to us getting, obviously, to the NCAA championships the first time on the court, but even more so, really, so much more off the court. She talked about, and this is to the whole team, not just to me. She talked about, being, and I'll butcher the words. She would do a much better job of it than I. But she talked about being in harmony as a team, and you can get to a certain level or phase, and she used certain words that I have escaped my mind, but without having adversity. And you need adversity to really get to the next level of, we'll call it harmony. And that really, the team kind of just bought into it, what she was saying. And what it allowed for really was to more people to start calling one another out, pushing one another in an environment that was safe, that was still a team environment, but one that wasn't comfortable by any means, because I'm calling you out for doing something or not working hard or whatever that was. And it's really easy for you to respond back to me kind of in a negative mindset instead of a stop, think, okay, we're trying to get better. He's right. I need to be doing this. So she really was a culture changer for us. As an individual, she was my assistant coach. She really has a ton to offer. You kind of have touched base on it. You're talking about an articulate, educated, she has her master's. She went to UW, a very good school, Cal Poly, very good school, young, 24, 25 Probably, years old, something like that. Black woman that is, beautiful, that is an intellectual, that thinks through what she's going to say, thinks through the game. It's really quite impressive what she has done on and off the court. She's now a married woman, as we're struggling with her last name.
Shunderword.
Say it again.
SHOONDER. So that's Schunder, and then Word. WOERD. Chrissy Shunderword.
Shundword. Okay. I'll have to ask her how the pronunciation on that one works. If that's
yeah.
I'll take your word for it on that one. You're probably better at it than I am, for sure. So she has so much to really offer. What I would argue, sponsors. You kind of mentioned it. Like, I'm shocked that she doesn't have more sponsors, because she is, kind of the prototype poster child for what we need out there right now.
100%.
And she can articulate that. She can speak to that. She has, amazing abilities on the athletic side. She's a pretty good athlete. She's not just a beach volleyball player. She's a dang good athlete all around. I hope that moving forward, we have a, stronger and stronger tour. So she has a platform to be able to, jump off of, so to speak. Yep. I fully expect that she will be on the international tour sooner rather than later.
She's just,
and hopefully, and hopefully taking a swing at maybe going to Paris, and for sure in LA. I know the process it's tough to get those points and stuff. I know you're aware of it as well. You don't just walk out and all of a sudden be playing in 5-star and the big events on the international tour. It really is at least a year process, if not multi-year process. It's tough to break in, but she has the talent, and hopefully she'll have the platform to be able to do so here in the United States as well as internationally. She's got all my support. enjoyed her as an athlete, loved her as a coach, and really have enjoyed kind of watching from afar to see her successes, winning a 1-star in Europe a couple of weeks back, and then taking another third in Atlantic City. So the cool thing with her is she still's got a lot to get better at too, which is kind of scary in and of itself.
Dude,
it's already really good.
What?
Yes. So much better, which is like, you think about that stuff. You're like, kind of like, wow, okay. You haven't even finished. You're not at the top of your game. You still have years and lots to improve on, which that's why I think she could be, an Olympian and maybe even, a medalist if she so desires. And that's kind of the key point is
if that's her path.
Yeah. If that's a path she wants to pursue. And I know she has some goals there, but she also has goals with family and other things as well. And like I said, she's a well-rounded individual as both an athlete, but also as a person, even more so.
Yeah, and she does her homework. And she, like, when the podcast ended, we talked off the record, and she said like 2 things. We both wanted to edit out a joke that like neither one of us thought was funny. It was corny and it was kind of silly, and it was bad for like both of our images. So I won't tell you what the joke is, right? Oh, not my image. My image is whatever. I mean, at 51 years old, do I care what anyone thinks? But I care about what she thinks. So I took it out. And the second thing, she says she wanted to thank me for my service. Ah, nice. See? He calls BS, right? But she said, thank you for your service. I appreciate, you're a Gulf War vet and this and that. And I was like, you're welcome. I said, you're welcome. But I'm like, how did she know? Like, there's only a handful of people that know that I'm a Gulf War vet. There's only, the only people know about my life is just the last 5 years that I moved here, right? And I'm like, that's cool. She did some homework on me, and she knew and you might see it on a bio or something like that, but you'd have to read the whole bio to see it. It's hidden. If you skim it, it's hidden. It's not like, in highlights, or it's not like in the beginning or the very end. So a mad appreciation for her. And I'll say something uncomfortable, Todd. You don't have to say this, so I'll carry this water for both of us, or just speak for myself. If she were a few shades lighter, and if she were blonder, maybe she'd get more attention. I'm not trying to race bait that, but I want people to take into consideration the college career she had as an indoor player, the 1 year the learning curve. The ridiculous learning curve she had under you for playing for just one season, her grad season, and then doing that gangster move in Hermosa Beach with Muno. Great human being, amazing human being. Now, another thing, we touched on styles of coaching when it comes to men or women, and I like what you said, because you knew her calling people out was a risque thing, because in my estimation, coaching women perform better through sisterhood. Like, men usually perform better through leadership by performance. Now, I don't care what the freaking studies say. I consider experience. At the end of the day, sometimes we have to accept the real scientists are us. we failed, we've experimented, we tried this, that don't work. Threw crap on the wall, see if it sticks. But was that risk? Did you know that was risque? Like calling people out, or should I say calling people up?
I like the calling people up because that's what you're trying to really do, is you're trying to call them out and then make them better, which is really pulling them in an upward trajectory, like you said. I knew there was risk there. But to me, it's kind of, if you're not going to take any risks, if you're not going to risk failure, then you're probably not going to attain what you want to attain. Assuming that what you want to attain is something special, like a championship of some kind, or a gold medal, or whatever that is for the individual and or the team. So without some form of risk there, and that's kind of what she was saying. Hey, if we want to really be a true team, we kind of got to put ourselves out there, and we got to take some risks. Otherwise, we're going to get out of 100 points, we're going to get to 85. Okay, well, is that good enough to do what we want to accomplish and the goals that we set forth for ourselves? Probably not. You got to put yourself out there to get to that 100, or at least try your best to get to that 100 and attain your goals, whatever those goals are. So I knew it was there as a risk, but for me as the coach, I was certainly willing to take it, and our players were willing to take that on as well.
Cool. Yep. I like that. All right, here's a fan question someone asked yesterday. Some people have been asking how close you've been following the Olympics right now. And I guess someone was highlighting Phil. And somebody asked, is there anything that you see in Phil's game and his mentality that has gotten better since once you guys played in 2012 and 2008 and 2012?
I mean, he's got a few more gray hairs on his beard when he lets it grow out. So I have noticed that, although I have a lot more. I mean, what I have seen is at 41, he's still pretty freaking physical on the block when he does what he does best, which is set his feet, get in the spot that he wants to get to, and then just get big and get over. He's still enormous up there, and definitely still one of the top blockers on the planet on that front. But when he doesn't do that, I have noticed he's not as dynamic in like reaching out left or right that maybe some of these young guys still have the dynamics at 24 or whatever, Mole and all these other guys, the Russian and Thole and whatnot. Those guys they're young, they're babies. It seems like mid-20s or somewhere in there. His demeanor and just accepting not his role, but just the way he carries himself has always been pretty dang good. I mean, even as a 25-year-old, when I first started playing with him, or 26, whatever age he was, he's a quiet guy. So I don't see a lot, like he hasn't gotten a ton better at any of that stuff. He's always been pretty on court. He's always been great. The only thing I want to make fun of him is he's still not great in the interviews.
Yeah.
Just simply, that's been his Achilles heel. If you asked him what he could get better at, or his worst thing, that would probably be 100% what it still is. I was watching their interview after they beat the Brazilians, and I was just cracking up. I was kind of just thinking, well, some things never change. Phil is still not comfortable at all being interviewed and answering questions. He's gotten so much better from the very first one.
Yeah, trust me, I know.
He did ages ago, but it's still not in his comfort zone. He'd much rather be out there in the heat of battle, in front of a bazillion people than being in front of a single camera with one person interviewing him, and then have a bunch of people seeing that. That definitely would be not where he wants to be.
Well, one of the things that I actually did, because I did the beat for Volleyball 1-on-1. If you remember Andor July, South African guy that played for whatever. So he wanted me to just go to the events and just interview top players. I just moved, I'm new. So it's a way for me to get to know all of the players. So what I did was I knew Phil was shy about himself, but I knew if I asked about someone else. So I basically said, what's one or two things you thought Nick did well in that tournament or whatever? And then he said, I thought he did this and this and that. And everybody's like, oh, holy shit, you got 3 sentences out of him, And now Popovich wins that battle, right? Because they were running neck and neck. But then the next question, I'm like, you got the Olympics like 2 years away. Do you think you guys are gonna go? And then he goes, I don't know. And I'm like, shit. I said I got him to talk, but then the Olympics, it was about him, and he went back to being this guy like, and like people that misread him, it's like, I don't want you to go to the Olympics. You look like you do. You don't look like you don't even care if you go or not. How about trying Trevor? How about let's get two cats in there who look like they care, they want to go. But I have some friends that follow him, and you've been with him for a long time, and you tell me if this is true. When it's time for him to turn the on switch, he dismisses all of any notion that he doesn't care. And people who misread him of that. You watch him on the biggest stages of them all, and this is the Olympics, and really cool. I think he's two. They dropped to Brian Mayusin, but they did beat Alisson and Alvaro, right? 15-13. So, am I right? How am I doing here, as far as like his on switch?
Phil?
Yeah.
No, you're spot on. When he turns it on, he's pretty amazing on the court. I think people expect you, not expect, but there's this desire to have an athlete, whoever that athlete is, whether it's Phil or someone on a basketball court or whatnot, to always be on.
Right.
And it's physically and mentally impossible to always be on. And when I played with Phil, my goal was just to get him to the semis, because I knew if we got to the semis, probably really, really good chance we were going to win, because Phil would just flip the switch and then go to another level that for the longest time no one could attain.
Right.
And I just, kind of would enjoy the ride. But it was my job to get us to that point, to allow him to flip the switch. And, it's kind of a shared duty in that front. And I still see that. When you give him that opportunity, and my hope is that somehow they find their way. Nick plays really, really well, like he did against the Brazilians. I thought he played very well. That they can get your partner to that point, and then just let him do what he does, and what he's done for, the last 16 years or whatever the number is, and 100 and some odd victories. There's a reason he's got over 100 victories. Is the guy has done an amazing job come semis and finals. I mean, his win percentage once he gets to that point is off the charts. It's exceptional. And that's when he shines the most. But you got to get him there, because he's not going to shine in the first round most of the time.
Right.
So get him there, and then let him do his thing, and just kind of be the fan giving the golf clap, saying, "Hey, keep going, don't stop." I've been a witness to it many, many a times. I just don't know if there's anyone better once he gets to that stage, that semifinal, final stage, that's ever played the game.
Yeah, I got a clip. Let's take a look at the clip. These are some highlights, the last few plays. Actually, let's go back. He comes up. I'm not sure if this is Rigo. But I think this is a game where he was serving. If he didn't get an ace, he got a block. It's just boom. I think that was the end of the game. I think this was for the gold, right?
Yep.
Yeah, this is like a 2-minute clip, but I just wanted to show the last few minutes, just Phil, some of the highlights, you and him playing together, those finishing moments. And since we stumbled upon that, walk me through those last 2 points, if you can remember.
He was an animal in that third game. And I think we were up 9-1, if I recall correctly. Yep. And it was just him stuffing the snot out of Fabio over and over again. I can't remember exactly. He had like 5 blocks or 6 blocks in that game. Fabio made a couple of errors as well, mostly because he was trying to get the ball around Phil, and it wasn't very successful when he's either hitting it out or hitting it in and then getting stuffed straight down.
It's like, Bob, what do you do for a living? Oh, I just get stuffed by Phil. That's my my 9 to 5. Sorry, go ahead.
I remember a couple of things 9-1. I remember just not yelling at him, but just being like, "Hey, let's not stop here. Let's keep going. Let's all the way to 15. Forget the score. Like, just kind of keep grinding. And I think he, obviously he stuffed that last ball straight down and then tackled me. And that was, a pretty cool moment all in all, given everything we'd gone through, not only in the Olympics, but just up to that point.
The journey.
The journey, which at the end of the day, that's kind of the,
and for the gold, Todd, for the gold, and Phil coming at you with the tackle, you got to take that quarterback sack. You are the Rogers that doesn't evade that sack. You just hold on to the ball and go down.
He that's a good way of putting it. He sacked me. I like that. I'll have to use that. The journey was amazing. And it was really, it was a 3-year journey, and we learned a ton about one another. And Phil's a good guy. I mean, he really is. I know you know this already, but he's such a good guy. I really enjoy. I had dinner with him a couple of weeks ago, and before they went out to the Olympics, and I just enjoy shooting the breeze with him. Whether that's about volleyball or life or family, he's a family man, and it's just I enjoy it. And when you get him in those situations, he's a much more gregarious guy and talkative and fills the airways up when you get him in that one-on-one situation where he's comfortable, shooting the breeze over a glass of wine or dinner or something like that. And I always enjoy and look forward to those conversations, and then look back fondly at all of those as well. Even probably, I don't want to say more so than some of the highlight events of our careers, but definitely, like, generally speaking, more than most of our matches that we might have won or lost. Just it's an enjoyable experience when we get together and shoot the breeze, and most of it's not even reminiscing. It's actually just stuff, politics, family.
Yeah.
At my last dinner, obviously looking forward to this Olympics and how do they feel, and I was grilling him on all that good stuff. So he's a good man.
Yeah, I like him a lot too. I was AVP New York City 2019. I was there to coach, and very nice facility. They moved basically from Pier 25, that was owned by Vesso, and I think Chi DiMaggio was there at that time. They moved it up to 14th Street and constructed or whatever. Easy to get in, easy to get out.
Nice.
Big, huge crowds. I actually invited everybody from the Exceptional Seniors High School game. I told them they filled like an entire section of the bleachers. But Phil and Nick were leaving. Long story short. And probably had to sign so many autographs, take so many pictures. I said, "Hey, what's good, guys?" And they didn't know it was me. And I'm like, I go to Nick. I'm like, "Nick, you want to shake my hand? Like we didn't sleep together." You know what I'm saying? You're at Florida State. I'm at LMU. And at the time I was a BVNE, right? The recruiting showcases. I'm like, "You're gonna know me at the showcases, but when you're looking for players, but you don't know me here." So he's like, "Dude, I'm so sorry. It's just a blur." And I said, "I'm messing with you. I know you're cool like that." And then I had a tall friend named Kenny, and then Phil and Kenny were sizing each other up, and Kenny goes, "I'll play you for that hat," and Phil goes, "I'll play you for those shorts." And I was like, okay, it's a good day. But the point I was trying to make was there's so many people, it's easy to forget whatever, but then Manhattan Beach, Phil comes up to me and I was like, "Can I take a picture?" And he's like, "If it's for the guy I'm supposed to play for the shorts, yes." And I'm like, that's so cool, so cool. I mean, like I said, it's a merciful blur. And of course, you got all kinds of weirdos trying to make business deals with you. And sometimes you just want, I understand why some of these players want their privacy because, if it's a fan, you want to talk about volleyball, yeah. You want to talk about something other than volleyball. I'm like, dude, I don't want to do all that right now. I just got done playing. My right calf is cramped up. My foot is arching. I have an arch. I've never had an arch cramp till I moved to California. Like a cramp here under your foot.
Yeah. Oh, there's a painful.
God, oh my, no! I've only felt that for other reasons I can't say on the podcast. But Matt, I know we're going on an hour here, or whatever. But I have to ask this, otherwise I wouldn't be doing my job. What got you into volleyball? What made you say, "I think I want to play this sport"?
Honestly, just a group of friends. My freshman year in high school, I'd always been more of a soccer player. And a group of my friends that I hung out with for years and years, none of us had really ever played volleyball before, indoor. And we all just said, "Hey, let's just go out for the indoor volleyball team. It sounds like fun." I was like, all right, so it was just kind of like a lark. And when I say a bunch of us, I'm like 10 of us freshmen, and we're all pretty good athletes. So, some of us played basketball, soccer, football, etc. Went out for the team, made this freshman team. We're the freshman team. And then on the beach side of things, when that season was done, we had a blast, had a great time. The head varsity coach, John Lee, is a former pro back in the 70s and 80s. He basically told all of us, like, "Hey, if you guys, did you have fun? Yeah. Did you want to get better? Yeah. Well, if you want to get better, you should go down to East Beach in Santa Barbara and play on the beach all summer long. It's a great place to spend your summer. You're going to be getting better at the indoor game as well as the beach game." And then his last little sentence, and it still sticks in my mind to this day, is, "And by the way, there's girls in bikinis down there." And it's kind of like, duh. I mean, 14-year-old boy, just light bulb goes on. We can go literally play at the beach all day long and go hang out with a bunch of gals in bikinis. Total no-brainer. And so then literally, I think that same group went down to East Beach. One parent would drop us off, and we'd just be down there all day long.
It's like, when do you want me to come get you? It's like, We'll figure that out later.
We didn't have cell phones then either, so we had to go to the payphone and call the mom or whoever was on pickup duty. And we were down there literally from probably 9 to 5 every day, just
man,
playing
so
and hanging
cool.
out and having fun. And I fell in love with the game, and still play with a lot of those guys.
Yeah.
To this day. Obviously, we're nowhere near as good as we were, but that's kind of how I fell in love with it. And you played indoor for 9 years or so through college, and then just loved the beach a lot more. And it worked out well.
There's nothing like girls to show like teenage boys that the sport could be cool, right? Right, like you said, they're good looking, they're in shape, they're playing the sport or whatever. And honestly, that's what got me. And I had a mad crush on a girl in high school that her mom played for the Dominican national team, and she was Dominican, and she's out there playing with the guys on a men's height net. Now the difference is you, at least you as a West Coaster and where your zip code was, understood the intricacies and how the rules were played. Me, I grew up in a basketball and football culture in Brooklyn. So you get on the court, right, and they're like, you can't do that. It's a carry. Can't hit the net. Can't do that. So the whole time I'm like, this is easy. I can play this, and I've equated this to such, and you'll appreciate this. You're on a fishing boat, right, with some people, and you catch a big old flounder, and you take the flounder off the hook and you just throw it on the deck, and you watch the flounder like flap around, like sucking air or whatever, and he thinks he's underwater, but he's not. That's how I looked. That's how I felt when I left, because I went in and I thought it was easy, and I felt like a flounder. So I bought a book written by Doug Beal, AVCA Coach's Handbook. Saw the 4-step approach, how you're supposed to jump, how you're supposed to land. Probably still got fingerprints on the ceiling of my mom's house, just learning how to whatever. And 3 years later, I was playing professionally. I was in Germany, in Darmstadt, Germany.
Wow, cool.
I got recruited from my military team in Frankfurt, Germany. Yeah. So tried out for the Army team. I think Fort Benjamin Harris is where you fly. You fly over and you try. It's a 21-day tryout, like a camp. But that's so cool. But I had to ask that. Last question. Was there a particular tournament or a match where you left that you told yourself, I think I can do this full time for a living? Was there a defining moment, albeit in club, high school, could have been college, Todd, or maybe early college, where you're like, I'm going to be a professional at this. This is who I am. And this is what I do, and this is my DNA.
I mean, the closest thing that I would say would be in 90, I believe it was 93. I was a second year in college, and went with Dax Holdren and down to Manhattan. It was a big tournament, 48 teams in the main draw, and then 16 out of the qualifier, and we were nobody, and went out there and qualified for the main draw, and then I think we went 2-2 and beat some teams that were ensconced in the main draw, and kind of went, that was at that point in time kind of the first light bulb that went off in the brain, where I went, gosh, this is really fun. I love the sport, and I'm beating some of these guys that are making, look at the list of money that first through 48 or whatever, and that guy made 40 G last year. Like, I just beat him. A little light bulb goes off. And for myself and my family, it was really important to get the education and finish up my degree on that front. But that's where I kind of started going, okay. And then every year we started beating more and more pros in AAA events, or even in Hermosa or Manhattan, Chicago, the bigger AVP events at the time. Right. And then kind of realizing, okay, yeah, I'm going to take a crack at this, and told my parents when I graduated, hey, I want to try and become a pro beach volleyball player. I'm going to give myself 3 years. And when I say 3 years, that means to be successful, not just make the main draw, which meant the ability to support my wife and kids, which I wasn't married at the time yet, nor did I have kids. Mm-hmm. But that was kind of my thought process. And my parents, were all thumbs up, go for it. So ended up a year later making enough to support a family if I had one at the time, and didn't look back for 20 years.
How many kids do you have?
I have 2 kids, 22-year-old daughter, Hannah, and 20-year-old son, Nate.
Yep. I got a towhead. I got a 4-year-old. And she looks like Queen Daenerys from Game of Thrones, you know? Yeah. And we're going to give a little lesson on for some of these young men who want to know how to treat women. For the people listening or watching the video version of this, women have a look that there's a particular face that only women have that men know, but men don't have, but we know when we see it. When she's experiencing grief and anger, the mixture of both at the same time, the face looks like this. Right? She's hurting. She wants to lash out, but she can't. But at the same time, she's conflicted because she doesn't want that person to think they got the best of them. And for my guys at home, for the young guys listening, if you're far enough, just run. If you're too close where you can't run, hug her, give her a hug. You're in the eye of the storm. You'll be all right. And at the end of the day, that's all she wanted anyway. So that's just me driving us both off the cliff, because I think you almost expected that when you came on the podcast. You're like, he's probably going to talk about why Bruce Lee died. I'm here for volleyball, right? Brandon got killed by a blank.
You're spot on.
Yeah. I have very, very little intel and knowledge on Bally's purchasing the AVP. I just wanted your thoughts on that and where you think, directionally speaking, how it could help improve the AVP.
I have very little as well, to be honest with you. Mm-hmm. And I mean, they have deep pockets, obviously, and a lot of, not just the deep pockets, but a lot of, what would you call them? Like
media exposure,
things and media. Yeah, they have got a lot of abilities out there, and my hope is that can be used to great effect. Would be fantastic, I'm sure, if we did well in Tokyo on that front, and Bally's could kind of take that and, as a starting point, and run with it. We've seen it done before with great success, so that's kind of, fingers crossed for everyone on that front. But I don't, I mean, it's a gambling organization. Will it take it to, all of a sudden fantasy beach volleyball? I just don't know. So I don't know enough about the organization itself, the company. I just know that they have the wherewithal. If they want to put beach volleyball front and center, they can certainly push that envelope for us. But and in my conversations with lots of different stakeholders within the industry, most people have no clue.
Right.
I mean, people, even insiders, are like, I don't know. I don't know where this is going to go. So it's a very interesting time for beach volleyballers across the entire, atmosphere of whether that's college or juniors, because we all aspire to be pro. And so hopefully that pro tour will, not all, but a lot of them that do aspire to be like whoever that is, currently maybe April, Alex, Sponsel, and Clays. And I hope that doesn't end, because that would be really, I think you would agree, all of us would be pretty depressed. It'd be a very sad, sad day. Not that I think that's not going to be for, hopefully not at all, but I think Bally's will hopefully give it a good swing.
I hope so too.
They can take so. And I don't have any inside information for you.
I think I'd like to start by saying that though I've been critical of Donald's son, fairly, all fair criticism, and I won't make the illogical leap to his biggest critic. There are people that 100 times worse than me. We ain't gonna name names. I really got to give this guy a lot of praise for what, from 2018 up to this point, right? Amazon Prime, making certain tour stops happen, the Hydra Cup series, some of the sponsors that come in. Allowing, allocating resources to help some of the players pay for their flights and stuff like that, and this and that,
right.
And just really, really trying to make the sport better. I mean, I Hermosa Beach. It was on my birthday. I helped. I was Earl, the guy with the afro. I was his and Jake's coach. Got him into the main draw, and I finally ran into the guy and I said, I want to shake your hand. He's with Jeff Conover, but I let him know I was one of his critics, but at the same time, I'm one of his biggest praisers now too. So, and I really, really, whatever is going to happen between Bally's or whatever, I really like the momentum he had, and every year just seems a little bit better, and Todd, it's very easy to take someone's worst moments, right? And then take all their worst moments and like cut out all the good stuff and take these worst moments and say, oh, this is what this person is as a collective whole. And it's easy to do that, and it's also lazy, you know. And me personally, I won't take the easy way out. I take both. I take both, and people decide how they want to do that. So I'm with you, because if it's really about the players, if it's really about moving the volleyball needle, the cheer meter or whatever, that little needle thing, right, I'm all for it. The only thing I ask is we can't enlist the same people whose ideas are not inclusive. You know what I'm saying? If you only have volleyball people that are only volleyball people, and and I don't mean to talk about cliques, but if they're only part of a certain whatever where all they know is this and that, the lack of inclusiveness could be the beginning of the end of the AVP. You know what I'm saying? And
well, it'll be interesting.
That's always been one of my things. Go ahead.
You have, well, I mean, I don't know of anyone in Bally's that would be in any of those cliques.
And that's why I think it serves as an advantage.
Yeah, it's a completely separate organization that I'm sure maybe someone plays a little beach in there. I would hope that would be great, but I don't think no one that I know of, at least, and nor have I heard. So that'll be an interesting thing to see, because they will be definitely completely outside of any cliques or circles within the beach volleyball world, and we'll have a very fresh viewpoint. Yes, but
I guess what I'm trying to say is, neither one can succeed on its own. I think they need both. Truly, one can't exist on its own. Big up to Jeff Conover, man. The guy, he's like the James Brown of freaking volleyball, like the hardest working man in America that I only put with Jeff Alzina. Alzina that's Alzina category. It's like every time you see him, he's moving, you know? If he goes backwards or stops, he's going to die. Dude's like a shark, for Christ's sakes. And that's what I'm suggesting, that both together can make it happen. And I really, really hope they find a way. So I shouted out Jeff Conover. Also want to shout out Josh Glazebrook, media guy, total savage. First time I actually had a conversation with him, and you know, and I was asking him, like, how did Chrissy Jones know about my military service? He's like, well, it was in the bio you sent me. And I'm like, you read my bio? And he said you achieved the rank of specialist, right? I'm like, how did you know that? He's like, I read your resume. I'm like, cool. You know, because I'm actually vying for future consideration, not this year, but like next year, to be, if they have more than one live stream, more than one court, they're going to need more commentators. And I believe at least from 2016 to this point, where I had to pay dues all over again because I moved, I think that's paid in full. I think honestly, I did everything, you know. I did the LMU thing. I coached a team in the draw. I coached a team into the draw. You know what I'm saying? Coach with Endless Summer. Duncan Avery, his kids out of Redondo, Evolution. So I have a full understanding how it works out here. I got to get rid of this hat. I'm not even a New Yorker anymore, except for the Yankees. I'm not a Knicks fan anymore, Todd. I'm only, you know, this is the last left of New York. I'm a Yankees fan. And other than that, I'm a California kid. So Todd, is there anyone want to know about Todd? Can you just plug in your Instagram handle, or just maybe they reach you at Rogers at Cal Poly, T Rogers at Cal Poly, or something like that? People want to know.
I'm not a social media guy.
I know that.
I know I have all that stuff out there, but it's not. It's me, but I'm not.
Yeah, he ain't looking at that.
I like my privacy, my family time, etc.
There's a reason you retire.
If anyone wants to reach out, you can. Yeah. You go on Cal Poly website. You can see my email, and my digits are out there if you want to try and reach out and have a chat and whatnot, or have questions based on what they see on the podcast, for sure.
Yep. You got a lot of power. I mean, when I was coaching Rafu and Kevin, I think you came up to the ref and the ref changed the call, and I'm like, you're going to change the call because Todd said so? And then two more plays, the ref is like, ask Kevin, did you see that play? And I'm like, why don't you ask Todd if he saw it or not? And everyone in the crowd started laughing, and the ref looked at Todd, and you were just honest. You're like, it's out. And then everybody just did it. And I'm like, this dude's a freaking ringleader right now. I mean, why don't you just give him the victory? Dude, I was so mad that day, but I was only a prisoner of the moment because Rafu I've known for a long time, you know. Yeah. But, you know, Rick Amon, remember, play with Karch, Rafael, Amari Velasco. These are names that you probably maybe after or during your time, right? So
Puerto Ricans,
badass Puerto Ricans, dude.
Yeah.
Well, guys, that's all I got, unless Todd has anything else. I got to tell you, Todd may love you, but I can't stand you guys. In fact, we're out of here. So for all of you at home, for all of you on your iPhone, for all of you on your Droid, for all of you on your desktop, who runs the world, old school, old school. For Todd, the Professor Rogers, this is episode 98 of the Option Podcast. Stay with me after I hit my music. I'm Jason DeBillius. We're out. Come check out the Option Podcast on optionvb.com. It's also available on iTunes and Spotify and on YouTube under the NY Varsity Sports handle. You're going to love what you hear.